Hello and welcome to Gritty Reboot, the show where we make fun of TV's dark side. I'm Kevin James, and joining me live from his haunted mansion in New York is Hunter Markham. Hunter, how are you?
It's a little cramped inside my casket, Kevin, but I've always dreamed of having my jersey retired, so overall I'm having a pretty good day.
That's the spirit, Hunter. We also have Sarah Dunaway with us today. Sarah, how are you?
I'm great. I'm just sitting here behind a door in my antique wheelchair, waiting to scare some high school students. So, pretty typical Sunday morning over here.
Yeah, that's a pastime over in Portland. I don't know if our listeners know that, but it is the city's regional sport of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, I didn't know. That was strange. I thought it was just Professor X who did that kind of shit. But I felt personally attacked and victimized by this episode of Riverdale because I'm currently in the process at my family farm of surveying land and partitioning off a portion of it for a family cemetery.
Wow.
So I'm living in the actual haunted Thornhill style mansion.
Have you given your home like a semi-relevant, slightly pretentious name yet?
Oh yeah, actually.
Like Mark Hamlet?
There is a pretentious name in the works, though.
Can't wait to hear it.
So speaking of pretentious names, want to talk about the episode title?
Yeah, this one wasn't even a movie.
No. Very obscure reference, though. I've never heard of this Heart of Darkness thing.
Yeah. Hunter, have you heard of this? It doesn't ring a bell.
As someone who has 2 English degrees, never heard of it, doesn't ring any bells. I think they just came up with an original one for once.
Yeah, Heart of Darkness. What an interesting title. It would sure be interesting to see if, like, I don't know, a post-colonial, late 19th century British novel had that title.
Yeah, that'd be kind of strange. I think there might have been, like, a movie-to-book adaptation where they took the movie Apocalypse Now and wrote a book about it. You know, kind of like they've done with Gremlins and Arachnophobia. But they changed
Yes.
the title, which I've read. But yeah, the Apocalypse Now book, I think they actually named it Heart of Darkness for some reason.
You know, some of those novelizations are really good. Did you ever read F. Scott Fitzgerald's novelization of Baz Luhrmann's Great Gatsby?
No, but I should check
It's
that
quality.
Yeah, it's really good. It doesn't quite capture the crazy Jay-Z and Beyonce soundtrack, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a period piece, so they had to lean into that in the book.
Yeah, so okay, Heart of Darkness, Joseph Conrad novel. They did make it into a TV movie, but who cares? At this point, I think we've thoroughly learned that the plots will never, ever affect the actual show of Riverdale, so I should stop watching these movies and trying to describe the plots.
Yeah, I think we can come up with some better titles than this.
Ooh, do you have something, Hunter?
I've got a couple. One is inspired by Luke Perry, is Funeral Appropriate Flannel. There is Can You Spell Necrophilia? That would be a great one. And I think this one was just for Sarah. And this is about Archie's arc, and it's I write songs, not captaincies.
Aw, that's excellent.
All right, Sarah, you got anything?
Oh, I thought we were doing, like, titles of actual movies.
That's
that
what
were
I did, too.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just like, I'm just going to make up a new title for this show.
I mean, whatever works, as long as it's funny.
Yeah. So the one I was going to go with was The Ring.
Oh my god.
And of course, mine was going to be Jersey Boys.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh, okay. I have one that's very close to that. And that would be, it's a literary reference. It's The Casket of Amontillado.
All right.
I was reaching for an Edgar Allan Poe thing.
Wow, Hunter, that was... did Veronica take over?
It's for a later joke where I said that she should have referenced that exact story. So it's in my rewrite of this show, which we'll get to. Veronica was really, really light on references this episode, and it bummed me out.
This whole episode was light on references,
Yes.
which makes me feel a little silly because I actually recorded a theme song for our cultural references this week. I actually had this idea a couple weeks ago, but I couldn't put it together fast enough for the really reference-heavy one last week. So I'm glad I finished it in time for the one that has, like, no references. But I just asked myself, what is the song that best captures the spirit of making tons of references solely for the sake of references? And I think I think I found the answer. So, Hunter, if you would play our theme song. Light them. Nailed it.
So good.
You really, you went all out.
Yeah, also the perfect reference to talk about having Josie and Miss Grundy when neither of them appear.
Hey, yeah. Well, is Miss Grundy just gone? I'm hoping so. I mean, we had enough of her.
I mean, yeah, they booted her out of town.
She's on somewhere else. Did you want to play our references that we have this week? I've got them queued up here. It's a little bit shorter than usual.
Very short.
I was shocked.
Hey, Rocky. Hey.
Betty, you're positively radiating Nicholas Sparks.
Sorry to interrupt Sad Breakfast Club.
Come closer. I want to get a good look at you.
So those are the only references that we had this time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure any of them, but the last one even needs explaining.
Right.
I mean, Sad Breakfast Club, I thought was actually pretty funny. Like, I chuckled at that one, so that might have been their best reference to date.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, the Nicholas Sparks one did not seem appropriate to the scene.
Oh, God, no.
And Hey Rocky is just too obvious to be interesting. But the horror is a line from the book Heart of Darkness. So that was a reference. Also, not knowing that, I still found it funny that Jughead said that.
Yeah, so if I may quote from my favorite authority on The Heart of Darkness, Cliff's Notes, the horror is the line the main character says when he is expressing horror at the colonization of Africa. So I think it was really appropriate that it was delivered here when Jughead's like, oh no, an old woman wants to say hi.
Oh, I hate that highlight right in the front of her hair.
Well, she did a lot of colonization of Africa back in her youth, so...
She looks like she would have.
Yeah.
She looked like she helped deforest the Congo.
For sure.
Yes, we call her Mama Blossom, but really, she's Cecilia Rhodes.
But yeah, that was... I don't know. I didn't get that reference. Having read Heart of Darkness, that quote slipped my mind.
Half of these I just catch when I go on the Riverdale wiki and the trivia section is like, by the way, here's the reference you didn't get. I'm like, thanks. This makes my job easier.
All right, well, now you're kind of tearing back the veil because I was like, wow, like, way to go, Kevin. I never would have gotten that reference.
Yeah, my whole act here is just taking very easily observable facts that other people have posted and then pretending like I found them on my own.
And by other people, you mean it's just the Riverdale writers running the Riverdale wiki and being like, look how clever we are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's probably true because there are two references that are not lines. One, like, early on in the episode, Cheryl opens Jason's cask and there's a zombie Jason behind her. And so, Sarah, you actually found this.
Oh, yeah. This is a callback to Afterlife with Archie, which was a comic in which they created a post-zombie apocalypse version of the Archie series, which is a fantastic idea, obviously.
They must have culled all the writers for Riverdale from the writer's room who came up with that idea.
Yes, I was actually thinking, wow, that's really kind of a weird decision to go with Archie. Like, what kind of person pointlessly shoehorns in that kind of horror element to, oh, the guy who became the showrunner of Riverdale. Yeah, okay, that checks out.
Yeah. The other one, I don't even know that this counts, but the music they're playing when during Archie's football montage is really similar to Explosions in the Sky, but is not Explosions in the Sky, which is sort of, according to Kevin, a Friday Night Lights reference.
Yeah, because Explosions in the Sky very famously associated with the Friday Night Lights original soundtrack. Like, they scored that whole show or movie. I don't know. I've never seen either.
I've never seen either as well. I've just heard a lot of people say the show's good. That's all I know.
But yeah, but like even I, a person who's never seen either, know that Explosion in the Sky is associated with them thanks to our friend John, who's a huge Explosions in the Sky fan.
Oh, man. All right. So we've got this opening monologue where Jughead talks about the creepy mansion and was speaking directly to my life, which I said last week that they live in the Clue Mansion, and I had no idea how right I was.
It was so difficult not to tell you exactly how correct you were, and I'm so gratified when right away at the beginning of this episode you got to see it.
Yeah, it was Mrs. Peacock in the crematorium with the candelabra.
Also, how long has Jason's casket been in their house? I really was curious about this.
Well, I guess the body was frozen. I think we learned that from the autopsy in like episode 2 or something. So I guess it wouldn't decay or be bad if they had it set to the right temperature. So maybe they could have had it. You
put it in a Ziploc freezer bag, toss it in the winter salon, which they keep pretty cool then. It'll keep for 3 to 6 weeks.
But no, he was frozen, but then he was laid out by the river. So
yeah, but thawing meat in water is actually the best way to do it.
It's a really nice way to do it. Yeah, much better than the microwave.
Mm-hmm. And then Cheryl has that dream where she gets attacked by zombie Jason, and she does a great Elvira impression, which is coming down with that giant candelabra.
Yeah, but that's a dream, and then she wakes up and she's dressed more elaborately in real life than she was in the dream, because she's in bed asleep in like a brooch, a choker, and high heels.
Is that not what you wear to bed every night?
That's I usually stick to just the high heels.
Yeah.
I am so bad at fashion. I know I say this every episode. You will learn, Hunter, just how bad I am at fashion when we get to the funeral.
There is an amazing example of this.
Oh my god. I have specific talking points about funeral attire in this episode because it's all awful.
Yes.
I think one thing I loved in this scene where Cheryl wakes up in Jason's bed is when her mom comes in and she's like, I thought I told you no more sleeping in Jason's bed. And I expected Cheryl to respond with, I didn't follow that rule when he was alive, so why would you expect me to do it now?
Yeah, there is a lot more twincest vibes in this episode. Like, later on, Veronica is spending the night at Cheryl's house for contrived reasons, and she says,
I hope this isn't weird, but Jason is crazy handsome.
And Cheryl's like, girl, I know.
Yeah.
My sisters, if someone was like that, they'd be like, ew, that's gross, that's my brother, he's disgusting. One other thing I noticed in Jason's room was there's a trophy case in the background when Cheryl and her mom are having this confrontation, and there's a trophy in there that has, it's like a water polo or volleyball trophy, and it has the year 2001 on it, which, like, we've done the math on this show. Jason either wouldn't have been born or he would have been an infant.
He was the best at the in utero water polo. A real
Beat
champion.
Cheryl every time.
He learned how to swim inside the womb. He just came out and was just doing like a perfect freestyle.
That is some great freeze frame investigating, Hunter. I missed that.
I somehow caught that on a first watch because I have serious problems.
Yeah, so Cheryl wants to perform a eulogy for Jason, and Miss Blossom says, no, you'll embarrass us. And so that's the end of it. I guess I'll never come back.
Yeah, I don't see that at all coming back for the rest of the episode. I'm surprised they kept flogging that dead horse.
Cheryl seems like a character who, when someone tells her not to do something, she will kindly and generously obey their commands.
Yeah, she's very respectful.
Very docile, really. All right, and then we have Archie, who now has a punching bag in his bedroom, and he's just, going all out with the jabs and uppercuts, which obviously is the best way to get in shape for football.
But what's the most important thing about this scene? He's not wearing a shirt.
Yes.
Well, sure.
We finally returned to form. But I do want to point out, Hunter, in our first episode, I joked that that Archie looked like the way he got in shape was like MMA fighting practice. And here he's doing boxing, so I was kind of right.
Yeah. Okay. Why would he do that in his room? Because when you box, you're going to get extremely sweaty and gross. That room is going to smell disgusting. Like, hang that punching bag up in the garage.
Oh yeah, you did boxing for a while.
Yeah, I boxed for years. And I was just like you can tell in the scene, he has an accurate amount of sweat. That's awful. Like, you don't do that in your bedroom.
Yeah, that's not a bedroom activity at all. I had the same thought. Just like, how did Fred sanction this? I don't get it.
He doesn't like to control Archie. There seem to have been no repercussions for like any of the Grundy stuff. He's just like, well, you seem to have gone through a tough time, so I'm going to be even more of a hands-off father than I was before.
Yeah. Oh, you're hauling the 50-pound heavy bag up the stairs and you're going to ring bolt that into the ceiling? Don't see a problem there, even though I've already set aside the garage for you to do whatever you want to do in.
And soundproofed it, but yeah, no, go right ahead, son.
Oh my god. Fred even says something like, he kind of makes a comment about the noise and says, never thought I'd miss you playing guitar. A, why isn't Archie playing guitar in the garage where he's not causing a ruckus? And B, what the fuck? Tell him to go there.
Yes. And then we cut to the school where we have Kevin and the team have recreated the murder board in the top secret location of a classroom at the public high school.
The blue and gold offices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no one will see it there.
If it got stolen from the sheriff of the county's locked house, surely no one can steal it from the open public high school.
Hey, it's not like anyone ever goes in the high school after dark.
No.
On this show. But, oh yeah. And Betty has a date that's also not a date, but Jughead looks extremely upset the minute that she says that she's going on a date.
Oh yeah, my joke was that Jughead is very upset at the idea of Betty dating anyone who isn't wearing a crown-shaped beanie.
He gets his look on his face, and it's kind of like the same look I imagine he gets when someone says they haven't ever seen Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that's fair. I also really love, we learned that Betty's mom is at a women in journalism spa retreat, which is sounds like an amazing event, especially if Betty's mom is there.
I don't know. Is that a real thing? I'm not.
Women in journalism? I don't know. That sounds fictitious.
Sounds made up.
Spa retreats, those are a thing, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know enough about that world to really comment on the Women in Journalism spa retreat, but I'm sure that I wanted the episode to just, from that point on, cut to whatever Alice Cooper is doing over there, and forget everyone in Riverdale.
That was my first sketch idea, but it was really tough to come up with, like, dialogue, because I just wanted it to be her lecturing on how to spy on high school students.
I'm sorry, sketch idea? What do you mean?
Oh, sorry, I don't know what that is. Just kidding.
Yeah. Like, we couldn't track. There was rumors that she did a TED Talk at the Women in Journalism spa retreat, but we couldn't find that deleted scene.
Yeah, I couldn't find that footage, unfortunately.
I can just imagine how it would go. Ladies, invasion of privacy is about more than just finding the information you need. It's a way of life. And today, at this TED Talk, I will show you how.
You might think that you could go to City Hall for answers about the best news in town. No. The high school. Always the high school.
How to Private Corner in 3 easy steps.
And so from there, we go to football practice with Archie, and he sucks.
Yeah, he's terrible. Oh, one thing I did appreciate, because I feel like since we make fun of this show so much, sometimes I have to call out positives. At least they made him a running back and didn't go with the Archie is the quarterback trope.
Mm-hmm.
So I was proud of that, but yeah, he's trash.
I said true, like I paid any attention to what position he was playing. I did not. Nope.
I noticed he ran and
He
was
caught a
in the
ball?
back, so I guess it makes sense that he is this running back, you were saying?
Yeah. So I was proud of that. I thought they did great, but he's just garbage. He was just getting bodied up and down the field.
Which is why it's so confusing when Coach Clayton said at the end that was terrible, Archie. If you want to be captain, you got to really shape up. Reggie, this is a horse race, fellas. You're tied. What?
Yeah, he berates Archie, and it's just like, you're the worst I've ever seen. But you've got a lot of guts in you, kid. You might just be captain.
I feel like Coach Clayton speaks exclusively in misleading lines.
He's been taking tips from how the teenagers speak to the police in this show.
I spent this whole episode still thinking about a couple episodes back. Jughead's closing monologue was there were drastic repercussions about Chuck and the gang getting cut from the team, and I was like, something really bad is going to happen. And it really didn't end up being that dramatic.
No, I can't actually remember if that ends up coming back, but it wouldn't surprise me if it didn't.
Yeah. All I know is right now, Archie wants to be captain because he told Luke Perry that, hey, this is my ticket to college, and when I get to college, I can study music. So that's why he's applying himself to football. I don't know how Archie even has a chance at being captain when it's already supposed to be remarkable that as a sophomore, he's getting called up to the team. Are there no seniors on this football team?
No, there are no seniors at the school. I've decided there can't be because, this wouldn't stand.
It's so weird. Like, I know that 5 or 6 kids were cut from the team, but like, there are like 25 people on the average football team, right? So like, I don't understand how like sophomores are all in the running for this now.
It doesn't make any sense at all on like a 50-plus man roster for football that you wouldn't have any seniors left after you cut 5 people.
I also don't understand why Coach Clayton doesn't just fast track this whole competition and just ask them both to spell necrophilia. Like, we could just be done with this.
Though, okay, so one of my favorite things is when Reggie finds out that he's in the running too, he says,
"Look, Reg, save it, Andrews. If anybody deserves to be captain and wear Jason's number, it's me."
Does Reggie think that you have to wear the jersey of the previous captain to be captain?
I don't know. That's not how it works.
Or is that how the school actually runs? Was the coach like, here, you're wearing Jason's number. That means you're also in the running for captain now.
All the responsibilities come along with the jersey number.
Very, very strange.
I don't know. It was already weird that like 9 isn't traditionally a number for a running back anyway, so it's everything about this was confusing to me.
There are traditional numbers for positions?
Yes. We'll go over that off the air.
This is confusing to me because, so when I was in high school, I was on the water polo team, and we played fast and loose with the cap numbers. We basically just grabbed whatever cap was available, and caps would often just be swapped out, even like between parts of the match, because no one really cared. They weren't an important thing for us.
Okay. In football, like, let's say if you're a receiver, you usually have a number between like 81 and 89.
So it's like basketball, where like centers are low numbers and point guards are higher numbers or whatever.
Basketball is just free for all. Because football is the only one that I know of that has a more regimented system for numbers for different positions.
Huh. Okay.
But, that's completely pointless and besides everything that we're talking about here.
Is it, though? Or is this the most important thing in the world until Archie decides that football should take second place to music?
I don't know. He has a plan. He has a plan. I just want to iterate that up front, that his plan is do really well at football, go to college, study music. That's what he says to Luke Perry at the beginning. Let's keep that in mind. But Luke Perry has his own agenda for what he's trying to do, and that is get at Veronica's mom.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, though we did find out in the diner that Luke Perry has the most boring sandwich order of all time.
Turkey on rye, folded tomatoes, to go.
It's just meat and bread?
Yeah.
Meat and bread.
That's disgusting.
And rye is a very dry bread. Turkey is a very dry meat. Like, what are you doing, Fred? Why?
You could get scurvy that way. Like, where are your vitamins?
Also, he mistakenly thought that he went on a date with Hermione Lodge, which is just so sad. Like, she didn't interrogate you or pour syrup on you. Be realistic, Fred. It's not a date.
I was so confused by this, though, because I got that from Hermione's perspective, it wasn't a date. Because she's still, so committed to Veronica's dad that she's committing fraud on his behalf while he's in jail. But Archie's mom doesn't seem to be in the picture at all. Like, there's no mention of her at all until Fred's like, hey, another date? And Hermione goes,
Fred, I'm married. And you are too.
Where did this come from?
Yeah, I thought from episode 1 he was like, we're separated, she doesn't live here anymore, which kind of meant, to me, he's single.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know more about this, but yes, it's a very weird twist at this point.
Meanwhile, he talks about Archie to Hermione, and it's like he's describing an infant, because he's like, I need coffee. Archie's keeping me up at all hours of the night. And I was like, first of all, like, give him a fucking bedtime. Second of all, drug test this kid.
Yeah. Stop punching and get into your bed, kid. Like, there's no reason for this.
Most teenagers, in my experience, are like little furtive weasels hiding in their rooms, doing whatever stuff because they don't want their parents to know. And I just imagine Luke Perry being like, why can't I have one of those troubled reclusive kids? Why do I have to have this asshole?
Furtive Weasels is actually the name of my pop punk band.
But no, Hermione does give Luke Perry like a longing look as he leaves. Like she already misses him.
Yeah, there's definitely some chemistry there.
And then we go back to the football field for some of the worst lines in the episode.
Yep. I don't know if Veronica ribbing Archie for being molested is super funny or really fucked up.
Yeah, that was a strong candidate for cringiest line for me. Not just because it's so tasteless, but it's also so unfunny. Because she calls it...
What about you, Archie? How's life in a PG world? PG, post-Grundy.
PG, post-Grundy. Too soon?
Also, you're not getting any
Burn in a fire, Veronica.
Like, it's just, it's really bad.
I don't know. It's just like, if you have to explain your joke, it's probably not that good, Veronica.
No.
Yeah, he's trying to get his life back on track, and Valerie just pops up like a fucking meerkat and is like, I can help with that.
She's like, look, I heard from Veronica, you're done boning your teacher. You know who else is a musician that you can bone. I mean, who can help you with your music?
Well, we can't let Archie be single for more than 5 seconds. It's against the rules.
Yeah, I totally called you guys. Last episode, I said he'd get right back on that horse. And that horse is the talented songwriter of Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah, and she's all up on him, putting some dude's phone number in his pocket, but I expected him to have some sort of, like, suave line, like, your number better be on there, too, which he didn't have, but somehow it still works out for him okay.
Oh, I did like, right before that, one of my favorite lines is, Betty asks Archie,
are you maybe throwing yourself into football as a way to avoid your feelings?
To which I want him to reply, duh, I'm a man.
It's really clear. I don't think we even needed to have a character to say it to us.
Yeah, that was...
It's not that kind of show, Hunter. We have to have everything explicitly stated on this show.
Subtext is for cowards.
It is.
Betty's like, do you maybe date so many older women because your mom's out of the picture and no one's heard from her, and in some way perhaps you're looking for a mother figure?
It would actually be so great if Betty just became like the show's psychoanalyst and just asked everyone really direct probing questions about their underlying motivations.
Jughead, do you maybe wear that stupid hat all the time because you're hiding something?
Do you wear your suspenders down around your waist because you feel unmoored and like you're not rooted into anything?
And then Cheryl comes and invites everyone to her brother's memorial service.
I'm shocked that Jughead got an invitation. I guess my perspective on Jughead was no one pays attention to him, and I figured he would have been forgotten or lost in the shuffle.
His dad is in the Serpents, though.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I need to keep that in mind. Maybe
like it's all scheming. They're just thinking he could be important.
Yeah, I think when I first saw this scene, before I knew that there were ulterior motives, I was like, why would the Blossoms invite Jughead? He's kind of like, he's beneath their station. I guess it makes sense later on in the context of the episode.
And Cheryl also invites Veronica to those well-known pre-twin burial sleepovers that are all the rage these days.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I've been to like 4 of those this year and only 2 weddings.
Yeah?
So many. I'm actually just really disappointed that we all can't sleep over at Cheryl's Haunted Mansion because it sounds like a blast.
I just want every episode of Riverdale set at her haunted mansion.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the coolest sets, honestly. And there's a bunch of... I want to explore this mansion.
Oh, for sure.
It probably has even more lounges than the high school does.
Is that possible?
Is there a salon for every season? I only heard about the winter salon.
I need to know.
What makes the salon the winter salon? Why are they using it in the fall?
I'm still so confused about the timeline of this show, because if there's still like a question about who will be team captain, it must still be really early in the school year, because like that has to be settled pretty quickly, right, for the team to function properly?
Yeah, the football season starts in September, so I figure we've got to be like 3 weeks into the school year.
Yeah, there were some trees that were turning orange, so it looked more like late September, early October to me, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Hard to say what it's supposed to be.
Time doesn't apply to characters or anything else in this show.
No, not at all.
Which we'll find out more. But, okay, this is the scene that confused me the most, and I actually am probably going to rely on you guys to explain to me what the hell was going on with this whole music coach thing, because I didn't even know that this was something that you could teach as a professor or was a thing.
It doesn't make any sense the way that this adjunct professor / tutor is treating a student is, I mean, unless he were world famous, I mean, he could not get away with that. He's so mean to Archie, and it just makes no sense, because if you're an adjunct professor in Riverdale, I think we can pretty safely say that you are not world famous. Like, that doesn't, yeah.
I think the thing that didn't make sense to me was he's talking about this sort of like songwriting as a business. Like, I spent all my time writing songs before I sold a song. I guess my perspective was, and from all the friends I've had that have pursued music, it was, hey, I perform my music live and with my band, and that's how I make connections and kind of get involved with other people. I didn't think there was just like a, oh man, like Rihanna needs a new hit, like let's look at this stack of resume of songwriters. It's usually like people who were former musicians or in the business already, or producers who they kind of reel in, to my knowledge. I don't know. It just seems strange.
Yeah, it's all very weird. I know that there are people who can break in as songwriters, but then usually they stay in the industry. I don't think they then branch out into teaching as well. I don't really know. His expectations are just so off, though. I mean, here Archie comes in and he's like, well, I've been playing music since the summer, so I know we're all fuzzy on the timeline, but like, I'm just going to guess that's been like 2 months. And the guy is like, so you're not living and breathing music and recording in a studio professionally already? It's like, what?
You're 15 years old and you do other things other than write music? I worked as a bartender. Get a fucking job.
Though the real tragedy here is that this music tutor doesn't even tutor in Archie's preferred instrument, booty.
Oh my God. See? That's why Miss Grundy was great.
Yes.
But yeah, the adjunct just seems to think that, like, the way teaching works is someone amazing comes to you and then you just leech off of their talent, rather than someone who has promise shows up and you teach them.
I don't know where this guy gets off. He seems like a complete asshole. I'm putting this squarely on Valerie, because she has to, unless this guy has done a complete 180, he's got to be just a prick to everyone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he basically says to Archie, like, I can't believe you, a high school sophomore, would write music that is sophomoric.
I listen to your songs. I think they're, juvenile.
Like, like, what do you want, man?
Yeah. Okay, I think we can just cover this whole fucking dick nose in one go, because he tells Archie, you got one night. Write all your songs as sheet music. I can't even talk to you about your songs until there's sheet music. Archie comes back the next day, hands the guy the papers. He looks at him, he's like, it's sloppy. By the way, I listened to your music that you gave me sucks. So Archie did all the sheet music stuff, and the guy didn't even look at it.
No. Also, when did he learn to write in musical notation? Did this happen in like 3 days, like when he got hot? Like, when was this?
Yeah, I'm kind of blown away because sheet music takes a while to learn. Hunter, you and I have both played guitar for years, and do you know sheet music? I don't.
I used to know it when I played piano a bit, and I can probably fumble through it, but honestly, like, when I started playing guitar and other instruments, I never looked at another piece of sheet music. I don't think I could write it or put it together.
Yeah, I can read it, but I would do a terrible job writing it.
I can read the most basic of violin sheet musics because I recently learned to play violin this year. But that is so limited, I could not write in it outside of, like, notation for Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Like, this is basic level stuff, and I was learning violin for 6 months. Archie has been playing guitar for 2 months, 3 months tops, and he can perfectly notate all his music in a day with only a little bit of help.
Yeah, I think the other thing was, this guy is such a complete asshole whenever Archie comes back. I don't think many teachers would talk to their student this way. Like, a 15-year-old comes to you and you basically just shit all over their hopes and dreams. Like, there's a better way as a human being to handle that.
Yeah.
So this didn't really make that much sense. It's a ding on Valerie. I just don't think that this relationship's gonna last. Because if I was Archie, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
This was just such a contrived subplot. Like, it's just there to make Archie doubt himself and experience a very minor obstacle, and then it's over. There's no point to it.
Yeah. It like, we see that guy, the Oscar, for 2 scenes, he's gone, and I guarantee you we're never going to see him again for the rest of the series.
No, why would we?
He'll crawl back into whatever garbage can he came from.
God. It was such a bizarre thing, and who knows? Archie's playing guitar. I didn't know that sheet music was that big of a deal.
My last little note is, he says, I just don't see us connecting the same way you and Miss Grundy did, and that must be a real blow to the fan fiction writers.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
really
like
sad.
Archie's like, yeah, I doubt it.
All right, so then we have Mrs. Blossom filling in Sheriff Keller on the sting operation. I mean, memorial service, whatever it is. It's hard to say.
Okay, so they said that we're inviting all the people we think are suspects, and yet they invited Veronica and her mom, who, as we've covered, didn't live there at the time, so they're not suspects.
I mean, it's always the people you don't suspect, though. It's never the obvious ones.
It's always the people who were 100 miles away at the time of the murder that you gotta look out for.
Oh, yeah. Better the alibi, the higher they should be on your list, really.
So we know now the funeral is pretty much just like a perp lineup, so...
Which is kind of funny because they don't really do anything with that.
This plotline doesn't really go anywhere, because what are they supposed to do?
They're there. It doesn't go anywhere. Like, it's a cool setup.
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere because the sheriff never questions anybody. Everyone just kind of goes through the service. Or were they just supposed to, like, see, like, oh, like, Jughead's back there looking really guilty. I think he did it.
Maybe Sheriff Keller is just really bad at his job. Like, he left his door unlocked with a sign out front saying, like, hey, please steal my murder board. When everyone shows up to the funeral, he's like, yup, these are all the suspects. I have visually confirmed they attended. That's all I was supposed to do.
Betty is doing a better job than literally the police force, the mainstream journalism in the town of finding out what the heck was going on, because it's like 2 minutes into her date with Trev and he's spilling his guts to her.
Oh, I have a real issue with this scene. So we learn that Trev and Jason were on the water polo team together. And as I said a little earlier in this episode, I played water polo. Water polo is a fall sport. It happens at the same time as football. I know this because at my school, water polo games and football games often happen on the same days, and so no one would come to our games because everyone would be at the football games, which is the thing high school students attend and, you know, go with their friends to.
There's no way Jason could do this. Also, we know from the previous episode that Jason and Trev were also on the football team together, so they could have used that. I don't know why they had to suddenly introduce water polo into the mix.
Well, it's like how he's also plays an instrument that we don't know about. Like, they just add things to Jason Like, just like, oh, he also did this and he did that. Just hoping we aren't keeping track of any of it.
I mean, that's why this guy looks like he has consumption in every single flashback, because he never slept.
He was literally doing every single extracurricular activity.
Yeah, I can't wait for like episode 8 when we learn he was doing baseball and track and every other spring sport at the same time.
He was the lead in the school play.
He was also researching new anti-malarial drugs to be used in sub-Saharan Africa.
And on top of all of this, he had a job as a drug dealer.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know. Maybe that's how he stayed up and did all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That came kind of out of left field of, like, Jason was a drug dealer. And no one else noticed suspicious behavior, like just this one dude.
It seems like it's a date that went really well, though. Pretty hot date. I mean, classic. You just go and you ask a guy a lot of questions about someone they know who died recently, and then you leave.
Hey.
That's how our first date went.
Is this why no one calls me back?
The whole time I were there, because of course they went to Pop's for their date, I just imagined that Jughead was like sitting in the corner throwing sugar packets at the back of Trev's head,
Yes.
writing dark poetry like her hair, Hitchcock blonde. Sleep eludes me like steam from my third cup of coffee. I really wanted that shot of just like slow pan over to like Jughead just brooding.
You know he is somewhere.
Yeah. He's got nowhere else to stay. I just figured he was at Pop's 24/7.
So then we cut to Betty helping her dad fix a car, which is disappointing because I was hoping they only worked on stealing them together. But I guess they also work on fixing them. And she asked him for information on Polly and Jason.
Oh, yeah. And he was like...
I came home from work one day and I heard the water running in the bathroom upstairs.
And that's just wasteful, so we had to send her away. So she could learn a little something about water conservation.
Yeah, the implication seems to be like she was about to slit her wrist or she was about to drown herself, like something suicidal, but it trails off. And
where was Betty at this time? Was she at the, like, whatever, the internship with Toni Morrison?
Maybe
a spa retreat.
Interns in journalism spa retreat.
Yeah, it's a really brief scene, and then we cross-cut over to, like, Jughead and Betty going over the evidence of Jason's a drug dealer, and they get the bright idea to, like, let's just investigate what the fuck goes on at this funeral. Let's snoop around the giant haunted mansion.
I like that Jughead was uncharacteristically sympathetic for once. Like, I was expecting him to be like, wow, your sister tried to kill herself. Man. You know I'm homeless, right? That's worse.
It was one of my cringe lines when he says, Betty, I'm sorry. That's hardcore.
Yeah.
Whenever she's like, yeah, I think my sister tried to commit suicide.
I did like that she suggested a seance, though, and I was really, really hoping that would happen. Like, I definitely feel like there should be a seance in the Clue Mansion.
Yes.
It needs to happen.
It would give the show the supernatural bent that I thought that it had before I watched episode 1.
Yeah. But,
hey, meanwhile, Archie's got Val up in his bedroom, so now he doesn't have to sneak out because he's got girls sneaking in.
Yes, that's when they're doing the music notation before he goes back to the adjunct. She's helping him. Seems to be going well. They've got pretty good chemistry.
Yeah, and Fred walks in, and there was another scene where I was like, your son just got caught in this whole scandal of sleeping with his teacher. Maybe leave that door wide open when you leave.
Maybe keep track of who's coming into your house. I don't know. These are all just ideas I'm spitballing here.
I'm just saying, like, if I'd been that age and I had a girl in my room and my dad was like, hey, time for dinner, and if I had tried to say, no, we're doing music stuff, he'd be like, yeah, fuck you are. Get your ass downstairs.
Right.
Yeah, Fred is just in total awkward dad mode. It's a little adorable. It's like, I'm just gonna leave this door a little open, and then he like keeps like popping his head up like what's that thing that pops his head up, a meerkat? Just like, oh, still doing nothing, music, okay.
But yeah, Val and Archie have some chemistry, and I was actually shocked that we didn't have like a first kiss or anything in this episode. Riverdale, they're really trying to build the suspense.
They are.
I bet you that doesn't last much longer.
Yeah, they're probably getting together like next episode.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid guess. Oh, after this, we get to see Archie just get creamed a million more times on the football field.
Yep.
Yeah. Which Sarah's helpfully titled Blue Crush.
After the seminal Kate Bosworth film.
A classic. Archie also looks at stuff on his arm, which later we figured out were probably football plays, but Kevin and I were like, what is this? What are these sports ball symbols? And we were trying to decode them, and we decided it looked like vampire meat, which I assume is a football move, obviously.
Yeah, I think it was. I didn't even try and read it because I was like, oh yeah, he's got his plays drawn out there.
We didn't know what was going on, so we were really scrutinizing it.
Yeah, it seems like just random words are written down.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to rewatch it just to see what the hell that is. I was more focused on Archie spinning around like a dizzy chicken whenever the huddle broke. And then when he gets hurt, and I just wanted him to be like, no, Miss Grundy's gone. That's my jerking hand.
What am I gonna do?
I think now is a good time to bring up that I really like Reggie in this episode.
Yes.
When he notices that Archie's hand is hurting, is like, dude, what are you doing? Sit out. Like, your hand is important. And Archie is too much of a dick to take his advice. But Reggie, in the middle of their rivalry, is like, dude, come on. Like, we're not gonna keep injuring you.
I had the same exact thought where I was like, Reggie's being legitimately a good friend, and we know from the first episode that, like, they have a friendship.
I'm a little confused on what their exact relationship is, because the first time we see Reggie, it seems like, oh, they have a tight, joking relationship. The second time we see Reggie, he punches Archie out, and now this third time we see Reggie, they have a rivalry, and it's like, these are all very different, and there's no real through line yet. And that's not a fault of the actor, who does a good job with all of it. The writing just has not turned them into, like, a cohesive relationship yet.
Yeah, I guess I'm coming from the world of the comics where I'm like, oh, Archie and Reggie are friends. Reggie was in the Archies with him, so that's why I just like, they're buddies. You know, they have a couple punch-ups now and then, but they're always friends at the end of the day. I could be reading this wrong. I don't know what the writers are doing at Riverdale.
It's hard to know how much is carried over from Archie comics and how much they just made up. I obviously don't know Archie comics as well as you, but it seems like a lot of this stuff is just invented whole cloth for the series.
Yeah. Oh, I promise this is the last time we go into sports minutia, but it seems like Reggie plays defense and Archie plays offense, and a lot of times on a football team, you'll have a captain on offense and a captain on defense, so it seems like this shouldn't even be a rivalry.
Interesting. All right, so then Archie is trying to tape up his hand by himself, because I guess they don't have a school nurse or anything. Just lots of lounges. And then Veronica comes up and asks,
Isn't this your playing hand?
Which he doesn't play the kazoo. Like, they're both playing hands.
And I play
don't
guitar.
understand.
Yeah, how many instruments are there where you only play it one-handed?
Kazoo is the only one I could think of. Harmonica?
I mean, even then you kind of have a cradling hand.
Right, but you don't have to do a lot with it.
But if your wrist is messed up, it'd be hard to hold it properly. So even that
true.
kind of counts.
I don't know, but they have some sexy ass music play whenever Veronica and Archie interact. It was kind of similar in a previous episode when they have the little Archie callback, and I feel like they're trying to build that there's lingering romance or affection between them.
Yeah, she seems a little jealous when Archie mentions spending the night with Valerie, and there's some definite like lingering looks and stuff. But yeah.
So I didn't think there was any real chemistry there. I was like, oh, she's over it. Good.
I was like, oh, there's like, she's jealous about it. And then there's Archie's lingering look when she's walking away, which was, it just reminded me of like one of my roommates in college who would always say that like line of, hate to see her leave, but I'd love to watch her walk away.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was just like, she's walking away in these little short shorts and Archie's just staring after her.
Yeah. We all love it when that happens.
I mean, that's like, it was not a good moment for Archie. Not that there are many of them, But I think they were trying to come across that, hey, there's unfinished business here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's like the answer to who wants to fuck Archie is everyone, and the answer to who does Archie want to fuck is also everyone. Just literally all of the people.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah, I mean,
Archie is basically the guy who sang Mamba No. 5.
Lou Bega?
All of the girls. He wants them all. Yeah, Lou Bega.
Why do I know that off the top of my head?
You're the biggest Lou Bega fan I know, Hunter.
Because I'm the only person you know who just knows his name?
No, I know at least one other person who knows his name.
I knew his
Lou Bega?
name.
See,
you
I know
Lou
one
Bega?
other person.
Yeah,
Can I
that
meet
song
him?
was a huge hit whenever it was a hit.
Like late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, it was like 1998. Not that I know that or anything.
Not that I listen to it 5 times a day or whatever. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
So the diner scene.
And the Clue Mansion scene.
Oh, yes.
We meet Nana Rose, who is amazing, and I want her to be in every single episode. Just, like, not even doing anything, just, like, rolling down the halls of the high school or hanging out at Pops, just being a harbinger of doom. Just, it's great.
But she rolls around in this wheelchair that's, like, 6 million years old. No one uses a wheelchair like that.
She has like a very obvious glass eye.
Yeah. She's from a 1920s film and they just dropped her in here. And they were like, oh yeah, like this wheelchair was last used by a disabled velociraptor. And before that, when the primordial ooze twisted its ankle.
And that's why I love her.
She's great. I'm not complaining. It's just so bizarre. Everything that happens in this house is like its own... I almost said fairy tale world, but I guess, whatever, like, creepy horror story world that doesn't necessarily fit with the rest of the show.
Yes.
But I think we can all agree that's more of what we want the show to be.
Yes. I mean, we saw some humanity from Cheryl. We saw that her family is full of garbage people. And we really learned about the economics of maple syrup.
Yeah. So I want to say, Veronica is the only girl at this sleepover. And I'm so worried. Did something happen between Josie and her girl Cheryl to not get an invite?
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that. They're supposed to be really good friends.
Right. I mean, and also it just seems dangerous to be the only guest at Cheryl's house. Like, you need at least 2 to 5 other guests present to solve your murder.
Yeah.
Plus, how are they going to spin the bottle with only 2 participants?
That might be Cheryl's plan. Cheryl's just like, well, there's no need to spin the bottle anymore.
It's just also so weird that they keep talking about Jason as being really handsome. Like,
yeah.
I wanted Cheryl to be like, yeah, he was literally like the most handsome anemic ghost of all time. Like,
yeah, he had chagas and ague, but he really shone through the pallor.
Cheryl really does talk about being handsome in a way that sounds like, duh, why do you think I went out with him?
But yeah, Nana Rose is great. The Clue House is great. I think they should replace most of the high school scenes with scenes in this mansion.
I think they should just move the school there.
Oh my god, like a Hogwarts situation, but way better.
Yes, exactly.
Great, now we're copyright claimed.
Yep. Cheryl's family is really awful, and like I would have cut my own head off to get out of that dinner. So I feel for Cheryl.
Yeah, and Veronica encourages her after the dinner, like, hey, you should actually speak at your brother's funeral. And I don't know, Cheryl just doesn't seem like the type of character to take some kind of like headstrong charge forward advice.
Yeah, she's really laid back, resigned. She doesn't have a strong dark side like we see in Betty, so I don't see it going that way.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I'm glad Veronica's still wearing her pearls while she's in her PJs.
As one does.
She can clutch them in her sleep.
And then we have a cutaway to Hermione at the diner. And someone has left a snake in a box.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
It just seems like so obvious of these gang members. Like, it was obviously the North Side Narwhals. I mean, be a little more subtle. Come on.
Yeah. She says later when she calls Fred to help her get rid of the snake, she's like, it was obvious a message. And I was on the edge of my seat wondering who.
Meaning what?
Could mean anything.
Is there perhaps some sort of snake-related gang in town that has some type of animosity towards Mama Lodge for maybe some bad action she took in the previous episode? We don't know. We'll never find out.
Luke Perry's like, my God, there's only one explanation. Jeff Corwin's been here. But, you know, she had the same impulse that I do whenever I face a troubling situation, which is call Luke Perry. If he was here, things would be all right. And, great thing about the scene when he shows up is the background music in that scene is basically our theme song.
Oh, I missed that.
It sounds nearly identical.
We're just racking up the copyright claims this episode.
By that I mean it's ominous tones.
All right.
Yeah, okay. So then we have Jughead coming into Betty's room. He's wearing a suit. Betty definitely approves.
He's got his suspenders on right.
I know. It's a banner day for Jughead.
Now, they give very cute looks to each other. I feel like at this point we can very definitively say something is going on there.
This one I'm rooting for. I'm on board with that.
Well, I mean, they're the only two characters who move the plot forward. If they get together, they'll be turbocharged.
This whole series is really going to accelerate because of them. Meanwhile, Archie has some side story.
Archie tries to juggle music and football again. Oh boy.
Oh no.
Is that the plot synopsis for like the rest of the series?
Yeah, you can just copy paste that into the recap section.
Oh.
So Penelope is greeting and threatening every guest who enters her home.
I kind of enjoyed that.
Me too. She knows how to do a reception line, you know?
Hi, nice to see you. Thanks for coming, by the way. I hate you. And, because Hermione shows up, is, like, cordial, and Penelope's like, oh, so you showed up to gloat. And it's like, well, you invited me here. It's not like I just saw there was a funeral and swung by.
How dare you show your face to this event that I invited you to?
I actually routinely circle around mansions in my car waiting to see if there's a funeral I can crash.
Oh, hi, Betty. Thanks for coming. I hope your mother gets trapped in a Turkish bath and dies of dehydration.
Yeah, and so while that's happening, Cheryl and Veronica are preparing for the funeral together. Cheryl is wearing black, like some sort of widow. There's got to be like a term for that, but
a bereaved lover. But
yes,
everyone at this funeral is wearing some dumbass bullshit because Archie's wearing a Letterman jacket, which I wouldn't wear to a funeral.
No.
It's so weird. Everyone else is in black, and Archie, you can see, has a suit underneath it, and he's like, what will really pull this look together?
I don't know. Everyone goes along with it. No one says it's weird. Luke Perry's wearing a funeral-appropriate flannel. It's got dark color.
Yeah.
He also arrives late, which is perfect.
Yes.
But he only showed up to hit on Hermione, so like he didn't really care about the dead kid.
Nah.
The worst offender, though, is Mr. Blossom, who's wearing a fucking turtleneck. Like, he might as well just open the casket and spit on his dead son's face.
I noticed that, too. That was bad.
It's not even like a Steve Jobs mock turtleneck. It's like a full-on turtleneck.
So 2 notes here. Archie has brought Valerie with him. You know, perfect first date and interment.
Hey, baby, you doing anything on Sunday afternoon?
He's got such game.
And Archie retires Jason's number by just handing over the jersey to Mrs. Blossom. Yeah. And she starts touching his face, and all of Archie's friends look at him like, oh, is he going to start fucking her too?
No one introduced him to Nana Rose. Jeez.
Hey, so we can now add Cheryl's mom to the list of who's horny for Archie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All he has to do is just make eye contact with a woman.
Yep. Okay, so here's a really great thing. As we were watching this scene and Cheryl came to the funeral wearing all white and everyone in the audience was gasping, Kevin turned to me and asked, why are they gasping?
All right, in my defense, the cross-cutting in that scene was so weird. I thought the audience was gasping because they knew that was the outfit she wore when Jason died. So it didn't even occur to me the more obvious, white is not an appropriate garment to wear at a funeral.
That scene, it wasn't as offensive as the... You even brought this up in a previous episode, Kevin, where you said this would be Archie's career path, where they had the, like, spooky cover of a Tears for Fears song as Cheryl's walking out. And I was like, of course they fell into this trope. Face first.
Oh, yeah.
I actually, once I understood how dressing for funerals works, I did think that having Cheryl wear white was a really bold choice, though, and I think it worked. But it seems like it did unintentionally, like, underscore the Twin Steps vibes, because then it kind of looks like she's dressed for a wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's after Labor Day for sure.
Definitely. I like when Cheryl says that when she wears the dress, it feels like he's in the room with her. Like, he is. He's right behind you, Cheryl. He's in that coffin.
Yeah.
One lesson about her dress. Kevin exists at this point solely to validate Cheryl's wardrobe, because she walked in and he goes, yes!
Hey, if she'd worn it with the thigh-high boots, he would have just fainted away. But overall, I thought that her speech, like, it wasn't anything insane. Like, it was a nice, heartfelt speech.
Yeah, it was a good scene.
And apparently that's all they had planned for the memorial service, because immediately afterward, Mrs. Blossom directs everyone to the winter salon for a light supper.
Yes, the plan was one speech. Whoever gets there first gives the speech, and then we're done. Mm-hmm. Especially the character who we didn't want to speak.
I didn't know what the deal was with that either. I thought there'd be a little bit more going on, but hey, when the food's ready in the winter salon, who am I to hold everyone back? Such
a coincidence, too. Light Supper in the Winter Salon is actually the name of my new short story collection, so everyone read it.
There's this, like, weird extra wing that got added onto the farmhouse, and from now on, I'm calling that the Winter Salon.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, Luke Perry arrives late, but is like, and Hermione says, I didn't think to make it. I was like, yeah, I had a thing. By the way, want to be my accountant? That's all I really came for.
It's just like a sexual harassment suit waiting to happen, because you know he's after her. It seems like a conflict of interests here. An unprofessional Fred.
Also, sexy conflict of interests, though.
I mean, I guess he doesn't know this, but Hermione Lodge is not the person I would choose to do my bookkeeping. Like, that seems very risky.
I mean, she may just hand a whole bag of your money over to the mayor.
Bag of money here, bag of money there. Who is keeping track, am I right?
Yeah, it's just paper.
And then Jughead and Betty start sneaking around Jason's bedroom, and they discover a horrifying secret. An elderly woman!
Why didn't they close the door behind them when they went in the room? How did they miss her just crouched in the corner like a raven?
I like how Nana Rose thinks that Betty is Polly, but also is totally unconcerned that Polly was sneaking around with some other dude inside the house. She's just very progressive. I'm into it.
Look, you're betrothed, because we find out that Polly and Jason were engaged. Once your betrothed has been dead for like 2 months, it's time to move on, girl. Get yourself a different husband. You are nearly 16. Like, you are past prime marrying age.
Okay, I didn't read this as they were engaged when I first saw this scene, because I was like, this old woman, you know, she's not all there mentally, since she confuses Betty and Polly, and she gave Polly a ring. Like, yeah, like, that could happen without without Polly and Jason being engaged at all.
Yeah, we only find out that it really is an engagement later, because Betty confronts her dad about it, and she's like, did you know they were engaged? And her dad dodges the question. She's like, oh my god, you did know. So apparently it was a real engagement.
Yeah, that was the first time I knew it was supposed to be an engagement. I thought, they were dating, and the grandma kind of, got into it and gave her jewelry because she liked them as a couple and, hoped they would get married one day.
Yeah. My favorite part of the scene is when Nana Rose says, your wedding is the last thing I was living for. And I really wanted her to reach up to her neck and untie her green ribbon.
That's a deep cut horror, reference.
You know?
That's a classic reference there. We need more of those.
I mean, it could be classic reference, or I could have been going with Her Body and Other Stories. And in truth, I was going for both, so, you know.
It was a weird scene. I enjoyed Jughead's awkwardness and how he's just quiet, and when Betty leaves, he's just like, I'm gonna run away from this old person as soon as possible.
Yes.
Which felt really real to me, and I appreciated that.
And then Mrs. Blossom is really angry at Cheryl and unleashes some very vague threats about what's going to happen to her, and says that no boarding school in Europe would take her, which I just feel like she's really underestimating the greed of boarding schools in Europe. Like, you have a lot of money. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
But the real threat here is no more cheerleading.
Oof, yeah.
No more river vixens. This is going to change everything, ladies. This hothouse flower is now locked away in the greenhouse. It's going to have more repercussions than Chuck and the other ones getting cut from the team, I guarantee it.
I don't think it'll even come back in the next episode. I'm guessing they'll forget about this immediately.
Unless that's the whole subplot for next episode, is like Cheryl sneaking out to go to cheerleading practice.
Or maybe she'll just be angrily getting her own punching bag, like, I gotta get back in shape for cheerleader practice.
I'll show those boarding schools in Europe what they're missing out on.
Then we get more maple syrup drama.
Oh, God, yes.
This is what we live for.
I didn't know the maple syrup business was so insane, but...
Hunter, you don't want to know what Aunt Jemima did to climb to the top.
She burned that log cabin to the ground. Cheryl's great-grandfather killed your great-grandfather. And it's like, who gives a flying rat's head at this point? That was like 100 years ago. Judging from Nana Rose's age, somewhere between 250 and 6 trillion, the great-grandfather was probably alive before there was even electricity.
But there's still, I mean, there's a lot of feelings about it, and it was like a really intense feud. We actually found some footage of that argument.
Oh, yeah, there was going to be a flashback scene, right? But they had to cut it for time.
Wow, I would have loved to see this, because, I mean, I wanted kind of like more of a there will be blood feeling to this feud.
Yeah, well, you actually managed to unearth it, right, Sarah?
Yeah, let's play it.
The jig is up, Cooper. I heard about your betrayal.
I just guessed you were using red hair dye. I didn't know for sure till now.
You imbecile. Everyone knows about that. That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. What is this about then?
Let me set the scene for you. Our dinner party. Last Friday. You were in the winter salon with the Kellers and the McCoys, and Cal Keller asked you, what's the secret to making it big in the syrup industry?
Right, and I said...
You remember what you said, old man?
Yes, I said...
I'll remind you what you said. You said it helps to have a lot of trees.
Yes.
How dare you give away our trade secrets, Cooper? You rat bastard.
Wait, what? That's not a secret. It was a joke.
You're the joke. I should have known better than to go into business with a blonde.
Hey, what's that shotgun for? Why did you want to talk about it in this barn? Oh, shit.
Sorry, Cooper. Looks like our time together is tapped.
That was a grade A joke. Really, Oh, you shot me.
Time for you to kick the bucket.
We're still doing syrup jokes? I'm dying.
That's right, sugar. Grandpa Blossom never waffles on a joke.
Shot in a barn over maple syrup. Just like the old gypsy woman said.
Now that I'm out of the heat of the moment, I'm wondering if this might not have been a bit too extreme. I mean, I could have just bought out your shares. No. It had to be done. The day when a rich businessman can't get away with murdering his partner for an increased profit share is the day America dies. That was really incredible, and it was a bold choice to make them already great-grandparents in the scene. I thought they might have been like young men when it happened, but no, clearly already in their 70s.
They were very old, yeah.
Betty's dad never said when it happened. Maybe it was pretty recent. It could have been, 1980s when this all went down.
Very possibly. I don't really understand how Betty would not have heard about her great-grandfather being murdered by a member of the wealthiest family in town, but okay.
Yeah, I wanted more details. Like, I wanted Mr. Cooper to be really shaken, and he was like, they didn't find his corpse until they drained the vat of syrup. We made the mistake of an open casket service. Whole damn thing smelled like pancakes.
I just love that the maple syrup industry is this cutthroat. Like, what, murdering over maple syrup is such a silly idea. Like, it's inherently funny.
And that's the thing, like, they could have picked a lot of different things for this town to be built on, and they were just like, maple syrup. And we're leaning into it heavy. It's not going to be...
leaning in so hard.
It's not going to be coal or iron or anything else that's going on here. It's going to be something whimsical and light, like maple syrup.
After that, we go to basically Valerie telling Archie to stop doubting himself, and so he stops doubting himself.
Yeah, it's pretty much that easy. She just kind of reads him the riot act and is like, you're just being a wuss. And he's like, wow, you really are right.
The Coach Clayton comes back to speak in more misleading lines. Reggie, come here. Your time will come. Archie, how dare you try to retire the jersey? That's what a captain would do, though.
You gave away school property. Well done, son.
Reggie, you made me more proud this week than I've ever been, even of my own boy. I saw a lot of heart in you. You're not captain material. It's killing him. But Archie just bails on his whole plan, which was be really good at football, be captain, go to college, study music.
Right, that seemed like a perfect plan.
Yeah, I'm not sure when he changed his mind. Maybe you just... I don't know. He changes his mind every 5 minutes. Who can keep track?
Though Reggie gave a very stirring speech in response to being offered the captaincy. What? I mean, yeah.
Archie says this thing of, oh, like, I have other stuff I'm doing. You need a captain whose only love is football, like Reggie. I want Reggie to be like, oh, I have nothing else in my life? Like, I'll have you know, I've been practicing close-up magic for the last 6 months.
Archie, you know that I am the playwright for the school. Have you not seen my modernization of King Lear?
Like, Reggie has some sort of, like, internal life. The kid isn't just, like, eat, sleep, drink football.
He also has tea.
Yeah, he's got a whole other thing going on, so...
Every night he puts on a pot of tea and then he paints about 50 miniatures.
I just meant, like, since I think all of us were endeared to Reggie somewhat in this episode, I felt like they were just like, no, he's nothing. Like, he doesn't get any more depth.
That is kind of how the show is treating him, which doesn't seem fair because that actor's doing some good stuff. We all agree he's great.
Yeah. I don't know. This show doesn't seem to recognize who is and isn't great always. And Reggie has some good lines, and he's a pretty decent actor on this show. And I think he's more entertaining on screen than Archie is most of the time.
You could just swap Reggie and Veronica, and I'd be all in.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's an improvement, because Veronica let me down whenever she was talking to Hermione and being like, oh, like, I'm really glad you're my mom, because she says something like, oh, I just spent, yesterday in the gothic horror story that is Cheryl Blossom's life. And I was like, you could have gone with, like, a classic Veronica reference, such as, I just spent the last 24 hours getting my fingers all pruny in the cask of Amontillado that is Cheryl's life. And that would have felt more like a Veronica line.
It's also just kind of sad that she's like, yeah, Mom, you might be, like, really sketchy and, like, committing fraud, but, like, you seem to sort of have a soul, so super grateful.
Well, of course she has a soul. She is not a ginger like the Blossoms.
It's true.
See? Yeah, Jughead and Betty are, again, the ones doing all the investigation. I don't know where the sheriff is.
This was so great. This was one of my favorite parts of the episode. Jughead's like, your dad said do anything to protect Polly. So the next question is, how far would he go? As far as he said he would. Anything. and then Betty
is like, my dad wasn't at the drive-in that night. Case closed, everyone.
Case closed,
he must have stolen the murder board. He was not at the drive-in. The thing is, we see from cutaways she is right, but the logic she used is, like, so specious.
Yeah.
Like, is he the only person in town who was not at the drive-in? That's really difficult to believe.
There were other people that weren't there, but we do see for a fact, like, mystery revealed that Mr. Cooper has all those files, so that makes him a suspect. It makes Alice Cooper and Polly suspects. I mean, he wouldn't have stolen those for no reason, so he either knows one of his family members killed Jason, or he at least thinks it's a possibility.
Yeah.
And the Coopers do belong on the murder board. I mean, as we've established, their house is just full of guns.
So it could have been Betty when she had one of her psychotic breaks and just snapped and did something, and she doesn't even remember. It turns out the killer she's been hunting this whole time was her.
That would be a great twist.
It would be like a terrible Jim Carrey movie.
Yeah.
And then the Blossoms bury Jason, and Jughead says that he and Betty need to track down Polly to ask what she knows.
And that's where our story ends, or at least that's the cliff that we're left on the edge of. What's our next apartment then? Are we going with the cringe lines?
Yeah. Mine is pretty obvious. Post Grundy was just, it was rough on so many levels.
Yeah, I had that one, and I had the Jughead's response to Polly trying to kill herself of Betty. That's hardcore. There weren't as many that made me cringe in this episode.
No, the one that makes me laugh every time is when Hal Cooper is starting to talk about the feud between the great-grandparents, and he's like, they were business partners in the maple syrup business. Just every time.
Okay, there was another thing in there where he's like, they were business partners selling and trading maple syrup. And I was just like, so like, were they selling it, or like, what were they trading the syrup for? Were they just trading it amongst each other? Were they trading it for other syrups?
Trading it for honey? Like, what's going on
Hunter, if you're
here?
right, and this was like 250 years ago that Nana Rose was born, they could have been like trading that with like the original French fur trappers of the region.
Yes.
Extraction, I get your maple syrup here.
I really want like way more like guts to this old time deal. Like, they were bartering maple syrup. It's hilarious. And then there's like maple ham. Mr. Blossom out of nowhere is like, Veronica, you should know Riverdale's built on maple syrup, which is a pretty cringy line.
Yes. It's gotten this town into a lot of sticky situations, you know?
God.
That's why it's called Sweetwater River. And I was like, wait, but why is it called Sweetwater River?
Because it's vaguely analogous to syrup. Just like how Josie named her band the Pussycats, because cats have claws, which is vaguely like clawing your way into something, which is vaguely like breaking through the glass ceiling.
Yes.
But no, it did seem like they were setting up like, because there was that time that all those barrels of syrup got into the river or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, there was no story. Just maple syrup is sweet, and there's the river.
It's like, okay, I mean, that river goes through other towns, presumably, so...
But it's not sweet in those towns.
I don't know that I think the Jughead's the horror line was also pretty cringy, because since I didn't know it was a reference, it just stood out to me as a really awkward, strange thing to say. And now that I know it was a shoehorned in reference, that explains why it was so bad.
Yeah. So we want to move on to predictions?
I think we can do a wrap up first, so we can really look
sure.
back at what we've done, and then we can...
Sarah, would you do the honors?
Sure. So there was a funeral for Jason. Archie tried to balance football and music. Betty and Jughead investigated Jason's murder, and she discovered some family secrets. Veronica and Cheryl are inexplicably besties now. Hermione gets a threat from the Southside Serpents.
Wait, that's who that box snake was from? Oh my god.
Maybe that's presumptuous of me. I guess that's not entirely clear.
It could have escaped from the zoo and just climbed into that box.
Snakes love boxes. We learned that Polly and Jason were engaged, and we also find out that Mr. Cooper is the one who stole the police evidence.
And Cheryl is banned from cheerleading.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Slightly less important than all the other things.
So I'd guess, let's just do scores real quick before we go into predictions.
Yes.
I'd give this episode 3 out of 5 glass-eyed grandmothers lurking in the corner. It was a downgrade from the previous episodes. Not as much of a lull as episode 2, though.
Yeah. I think retrospectively, I would give episode 2 an even lower score than I did. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5. Retroactively, it's like a 1.5 or a 2. Because this one only gets like 2.5 slices of maple ham out of 5.
I would say this is like, yeah, maybe 3 light suppers in the winter salon.
All right, so predictions. Kevin, since Sarah is barred from this until mid-season 2.
So I do know a little bit from things Sarah spoiled for me, so I won't get into those predictions. But I will say my biggest prediction is that Polly is basically just a nicer, slightly older version of Betty. All those like hints we got in previous episodes that there was something wrong with her won't amount to anything. I will also guess that virtually none of the plots that were important in this episode come back. Not the murder, not Cheryl being banned from cheer practice. Maybe the accountant plotline goes somewhere. That seems like something that might.
Okay, I have final prediction. Miss Grundy, maybe not this season, maybe not the next, but sooner or later she's going to be back somehow. Until next time, you can reach us on Twitter at GrittyRebootPod or by email at grittyrebootpodcast@gmail.com. Also, we have a new website up. It's grittyrebootpodcast.com. Just wanted to say a quick thanks for all the support we've received for the show. It's been outstanding, and we can't thank our listeners enough.